There's been a big conversation about music licensing after more DMCA takedowns occurred on Twitch without warning. A lot of people have had a lot of things to say about these takedowns, including myself, even on my Twitter, Big Ant Live, by the way. But one person in particular decided to chime in about this. His name is Alex Hutchinson, a creative director for one of the Google Stadia developers. This is what Alex had to say. Streamers are worried about getting their content pulled because they used music they didn't pay for, but should be more worried by the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. Did he just insinuate that every streamer who streams music while they're streaming did not pay for that music? This is why this is important. Alex is a director of a game coming to Google Stadia eventually at some point, and he doesn't know how to communicate his thoughts. Like, I get it. It's Twitter. You only got 240 characters. It's hard to have that kind of nuance on Twitter, but this was not one of those situations where you should have had trouble including the nuance that's needed for this kind of tweet. I can only imagine what it's like working for him. He then insinuates that streamers didn't pay for the games that they stream based on what he wrote. And if that's the case, if that's what he was actually saying, my God. And how do you think all these publishers make the money that they make? Like, you think all the streamers are pirating the games that they play on Twitch? My goodness. Okay, so I'm being a little facetious. Like, I get what he's saying. I'm sure you get what he's saying too, but I'm going to communicate what he's trying to say better than he said it. He's saying that streamers who did not pay for a license to stream music should be more worried about the fact that they're streaming games that they didn't pay for a license to stream. It's kind of an interesting thought. When you first hear it, it's like, yeah, this is how the rest of the industry works for the most part. Let's say news happens and one news company and two news company have the same news story. One news company wants to use footage from two news company. Well, one news company needs to ask for permission to use two news companies' footage that they captured. They either have to ask for permission or they have to pay for it in order to use it. This is how it generally works. Those late night talk shows where they have, all kinds of random clips and sounds and all that stuff. Some of it they have to pay for, some of it they ask for permission. This is how it works. If you've done any kind of serious YouTube work, if you've done any kind of serious Twitch work, you understand certain things you might be able to get away with just by asking for permission. Other things, you got to pay for the right to use it. So the idea here is, well, creatives created these games. Other creatives are using our games to make money off of them. Well, we should have some sort of licensing fee that they should use to be able to use our games. Kind of a logical thought. Totally get it. Except, where were you in 2013 and 2014 where we already settled this? Like, the publishers already said, no, we're good. This is okay. We already had this conversation. Why are you bringing it back up like you're adding something new to the table? We're in a whole new console generation. This started at the dawn of the Xbox One and the PS4. And you over here bringing this up in 2020. If publishers and developers would have thought this was a problem, they would have shut it down from the beginning. We would have never have gotten this far. People would have had to pay for the license to play these games. And those people would have been well off anyway. They wouldn't have allowed this in the first place if it was really about the bottom line. But it's not. Nintendo tried to execute this idea. They were like, hey, if you want to do our games in a Let's Play format, we get all the ad revenue. That's the only take. And then they were like, okay, maybe that's a little too harsh. We'll get still a higher percentage than even most of the MCNs on YouTube give you. And then it turned into, nah, this ain't working. This isn't working too well. Okay, you guys can stream our games and you can have the ad revenue. Why? Because Nintendo looked at the landscape and saw oh man, everybody's playing our games and putting them on YouTube. Look at all that publicity these games are getting. And look at us. I guess we should let people stream our games and get more free publicity. It's okay if they're getting paid. We're getting paid too. Perhaps more people will buy our game. Like it was that simple. But Alex takes issue with the fact that streamers make money off of other people's work and publishers and developers don't get paid for it. How much, Alex, do you think Naughty Dog lost from people streaming The Last of Us Part 2 on the first day? How much money do you think Naughty Dog lost when people decided to upload the entire gameplay story of The Last of Us Part 2 in the first week? Probably not much. So much so. Have you heard anything from Naughty Dog? Have you heard anything from Sony? Yes, they want to stop the spoilers, of course. But the people who wanted to know the story of The Last of Us Part 2 wanted to know it. But you weren't going to stop them from being able to see it. But that's no different than a demo. It's the reason why, for a little while, AAA developers stopped doing demos, because people would get their hands on it, they'd play it for a little while, and then go, I don't really want to buy it anymore. Yes, it evolved eventually into open betas and closed betas and things like that. You know, couching it as, oh, the game's not complete, guys. Don't worry. In 2 weeks, it could be a whole different experience. But that's the importance of being able to play the game, which is the fundamental difference Alex is missing here. There's a difference between streaming music and streaming games. When you stream music and put it up on YouTube or put it up on Twitch, and then you get the chance to listen to it, you get the full experience immediately. If I set up a Twitch channel or a YouTube channel and I uploaded your favorite album, think of your favorite album right now. If I uploaded that to Twitch and YouTube and you didn't have access to it yet and you heard it, you just got the full experience. You could talk about it. You could interpret the music and the sounds however you wanted. You could have that full experience right there. And then you have no incentive to buy the music. You could write a review, for crying out loud. You have no incentive to buy the music, except if you want to support the creator, which is a great reason. If I set up a Twitch channel, which I do, Big Ant Live, and I played the entirety of Super Mario 64 from star 1 to star 120, and you happen to watch dang near all of it, yeah, you got to see all the stars, but you didn't have to jump over the cliffs. You didn't have to try to make Mario do side jumps and ground pounds and long jumps and throw Bowser into the bombs and everything else that Mario 64 involves. You didn't have to deal with the physics. Where I died, you might have lived. Shoot, some games have different difficulty choices. Maybe I went with normal and you went with hard. Totally different gameplay now. Alex Hutchinson has been a creative director for 10 years. You would think, after being in the industry for longer than that, but at least being a creative director for 10 years, you would think he would have a much more nuanced and insightful thought about this. Even if he's for the idea of publishers and developers getting paid off of the idea of streamers streaming their games, you'd think he'd come at it with a little more insight. Someone needs to shut this guy up forever. Because this isn't the first time he said something crazy. And while this is crazy, he said something even crazier back in 2012. He said Japanese games get a pass because subtle racism towards Western games. Yeah! I'm not even going to go into all of it. You can go look up that article yourself. It's a Kotaku article. You could probably find it on other outlets also. But it seems like he's got this tendency to latch on to this one idea, and then he's not really able to flesh out that idea in the ways that it needs to be. Like, he couldn't understand if Japanese games had bad stories, they could still have good gameplay, and that's why they sell. In this case, he can't understand that streaming games is fundamentally different than streaming music. Remember how Bobby Kotick always used to open up his mouth about stuff And then Activision PR was like, no, stop. Don't say anything more. Yeah, I haven't heard much from him since then. Google needs to do the same thing with Alex. And Alex needs to ban himself from Twitter. How do you feel about Alex's take on streaming games? Do you see any validity in his argument, or do you find it ridiculous? Let me know in the comments below. Tap the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to get more totally legal and licensed to play gameplay content for all kinds of games, indie to AAA. My name is Anthony. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.